Today I'm going to fit in one of these Smith & Lock square concealed chain door closer, and this one is in polished brass. So let's debox it. You get one door closer, one set of questionable destructions, I'll go into that later, and one tool and some screws made from the finest Chinesium. So the first thing I'll do, I'll just unscrew it so you can see what's inside. We've got a length of chain there, and inside you've just got a spring which compresses with the chain, and then a threaded nut there. It can actually be re-threaded with a bit of faffing. You just need to get the bolt there so it's making a start on the nut, and then just turn it clockwise. You can see there we're reassembling reasonably easy. Sometimes just shake it around a bit. So this is what's commonly known as an egg box door, because it may not be solid. You may have a solid door, in which case this will do, this procedure. And you can see with the panelling, there are only certain places I can fit this. We're restricted, so it can either go bottom, middle, or top, which isn't going to happen, as it's more convenient to put it at the bottom. So the first thing I'll do is I'll measure the door and put it at exactly 2 centimeters to get it central. Now I've got a little tool which is going to help me install this. This is what's known as, I would have called it a brad awl, but Screwfix seems to know it as a carpenter's awl. It's just really short and pointy, so we can use that as a pilot hole. We'll just keep twisting and pushing it in, and it is favourable to drilling, which we'll get to a bit later on in the video. In this case it makes no difference. So these are the instructions, and it does say to drill a 25mm hole, which is not required, as the diameter of the door closer is 22. So I do have a 22mm drill bit, which I'm going to use and see what it gives. And this is the 22mm auger bit, which should fit quite nicely in the hole I've made with the brad awl. It should just guide it enough. And that is what I'd call a just fit. So that's all we need. The thing I'm going to do is just apply the tension by turning it clockwise before we start, as it's much easier to do this while it's out the door casing. Just get a knife and just mark all the way round, as we're going to have to recess this into the door and of course the frame. So now we're at the notching out stage. We've got my trusty old chisel here, and you can see how I'm holding the chisel there. We're just going to keep the flattermost edge to the exterior. Now because there is a grain to the wood, you'll notice that it's easier on these edges to notch out. That requires less force, and obviously when you're going against the grain, I'll have it that way, it will require more force, as it's always harder going against the grain. So we've gone round in an outline, and the next stage is to get the chisel and just chivvy a bit off using the chisel in that manner. We need to take a couple of mil out, so the object being just to get the door closer flush with the door. Okay, we've got that notched out now, so we'll put this back in, put the closer back in. You see it just fits quite nicely. And to make our first hole, I'm going to be using our trusty brad awl, and same for the second hole. You can always give it a little cheeky tap with a hammer just to increase the diameter of the hole. So with some mole grips on there, I've just managed to pull on that and get the chain clip in. I find it's quite difficult to torque up, so it's better to do it in stages. You know, if you achieve a link at a time, that will suffice. So we use a climber, and I've put this down to protect the floor, as we've got a wood floor here. And we get the chain clip in. Like so. And we just keep going a link at a time. So I've got that in. The next stage is to mark that up and just keep everything square. I use a ruler. So we've got just enough chain exposed just to do this next bit, and it's imperative that this is correctly lined up. You can see it's moving with the links in the chain. So if we get a steel ruler and just put it underneath, and you can see there that's roughly in its correct space. We just need to centre it in relation to the door frame. This is actually a bit trickier to mark up because of this protruding piece of steel. So what I'm going to do is just mark it on the paint just by moving it to and fro. And we're going to extract a bit of material because it's imperative that we get this correct. So we'll just get the chisel in and remove a bit of material in there to make room for that at this stage. Or we've cut a bit more out using a little more persuasion with a hammer and chisel. And there we have the finished product. And one thing I've observed, you need to excavate a good bit of material out behind this, as there is a bit of adjustment. It's capable of moving up and down ever so slightly and left to right. So if your door doesn't totally close, check that is reasonably free. In my case it could be freer, but it does actually work. And there we have it, the door closer is fully working. It doesn't quite close the door, probably because it's compressing a good amount of draft excluder. But it's definitely an improvement. I would recommend that you swapped out the screws, they're not particularly good. I had a couple of problems with them when I was doing this.